Okay, let me let me welcome everyone here. I'm Steve Farrell, the Worldwide Executive Director for Humanities Team. This is a live video broadcast as part of our year-round Oneness and 12 Spheres of Life program. It's great to be with you today. Our special guest today is Deborah Rozman, the President and Co-CEO of HeartMath. We're going to be discussing heart-brain communications and its relationship to managing stress, increasing coherence, and deepening our connection to self and others. I am also here with my co-host, Anna Marie Peterson. I'll be bringing her in and Deborah in very shortly. A quick introduction to Humanities Team as we get started. In Humanities Team, we believe there is only one presence, the divine, and believe that we're all emanations of the divine. This is true for each of us in all of life. It doesn't matter how far our lives may be from reflecting this truth, it's still true. Our invitation is to live in communion with the divine and be an authentic expression of the presence, peace, and power that are our true essence. We don't need to be perfect or even excellent. We're invited to simply receive God's love and be an expression of that, each in our own way. When we do this together, we create the world that we know is ours. Okay, concerning today's program with Deborah Rozman, we invite you to share your questions by placing them in the question and answer window. The sooner the better. This way we can get to them during the hour. If you bring in questions late, like 50 minutes into the hour, we tend not to be able to get to those questions. So you might go ahead and begin sharing your questions and comments now. I'd also like to extend an invitation to those of you who receive value from our weekly programming. Our weekly programs cost us about $1,000 to produce each week. And of course, we're providing these programs free to the public. If you find value in our programming, we invite you to go to humanitiesteam.org, our website. At the top of the website in yellow, you'll see a donate button. You can click there to contribute so we can keep these programs free for viewers. We're also placing a donation link in the window. And thank you to all of you for your generosity. As I mentioned earlier, this is a Oneness and 12 Spheres program, so I'd like to bring in my co-host at this point, Anna Marie Peterson. She is the country coordinator for Humanities Team South Africa and the co-coordinator of the Oneness and 12 Spheres of Life program. She's going to come on now to share about the sphere that we're focusing on this month. And over to you, Anna Marie.
Wonderful. Thank you, Steve. It's such a great pleasure for me to be again here with you and with Deborah, who has become such a great friend of ours. So, yes, you are right. I'm the country coordinator of Humanities Team in South Africa, and it's a great privilege to be co-coordinating this initiative with you, Steve. So yes, let me go into the overview of the sphere of the sphere of health, like we always do in these calls, to set the stage for our discussion. So basically, this sphere deals with the vitality and the well-being and the wholeness of living systems. Now, looking at the whole question of health, wellness, vitality, and healing through the lens of oneness, we do so from the premise that although we have bodies, we are spirit having a human experience. This is the way we refer to ourselves. We're not only bodies, we are spirit having a human experience. We notice that everything is connected to everything else. So therefore, when it comes to illness, for example, we see that it's somehow deeply embedded in networks and systems and chains of pathology. It's not something that just stands by itself. We are living in times during which we as human beings are more and more able to see how what is happening inside of our bodies is directly affected by our environment. We no longer perceive ourselves as separate beings, but instead as complex, adaptive systems within systems. Our concepts of health have evolved with our awareness, and we know that our thoughts and emotions have an impact on our health. And traditionally, we are used to seeing the scientist as standing separate from that which he or she observes. Now today, however, it is scientifically confirmed that the two are never separate. This situation then leads us to ask some important and some interesting questions, like, for example, who is the healer and who is being healed? And what does the statement, all healing is self-healing, mean, for example? Now, although Oneness in Health recognizes and includes the pioneering ideas of being holistic, allopathic, alternative, complementary, and so on, Oneness Health and Medicine is much wider in its reach and more grounded in empirical research. It relates to comprehensive models of human psychology and consciousness, and it includes enduring and effective elements of complementary as well as conventional medicine, whilst launching something completely new. Oneness approach to health and healing is considerate of the person, the disease, as well as the physician. And it is concerned with the question, what kind of a world is it that allows all of the many methodologies to arise and to be necessary in the first place? This sphere, therefore, is one of the most dynamically shifting areas of human understanding. As our awareness of whole systems expands, we begin to see and experience the interconnectedness of everything to the extent that boundaries are beginning to disappear, taking us to unimaginable heights when it comes to our health and to caring. And we believe that the stage is set for the understanding of that which most of us yet do not understand completely, which is healing. And with that, the stage is open for our discussion. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you so much, Anna Marie. Always wonderful the way you set the table for our discussion. You'll hear a lot more from Anna Marie shortly. We're going to get started here. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our special guest here now. Deborah Rozman is the president and co-CEO of HeartMath and has for over 30 years business experience as an executive, serial entrepreneur, psychologist, author, and educator. She has been involved with HeartMath since its inception, first as founding executive director of the nonprofit institute of HeartMath, then as executive vice president of HeartMath LLC, and for the past decade as the founding director, president, and CEO of HeartMath Inc., and more recently, HeartMath LLC. She is also the co-author and with Doc Childare of HeartMath's transforming series, Transforming Stress, Transforming Anger, Transforming Anxiety, and Transforming Depression, and is a key spokesperson on HeartMath, Heart Intelligence, Managing Stress in These Challenging Times, and Heart-Based Living. And welcome to this Oneness in 12 Spheres of Life program. Deborah, great to have you with us.
Steve, I'm glad to be here with you as always. This is a wonderful connection. So how can I serve you?
Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to jump right in because there's so much to cover. You know, what you're doing and HeartMath is doing is awesome. So, yeah, and I thought we would just start on a personal level here. Deborah, some may know the history of HeartMath. It goes all the way back to 1991. But you've been involved since the beginning. So before we get into what HeartMath is all about, would love to hear from you and just hear about your personal journey with HeartMath, how you became involved, and how, on a personal level, this whole journey's been for you.
Well, wow. Let me try to crunch it into a simple statement. You know, from a young child, I knew I was here to serve, but I didn't know why or what. And I always thought I would be a teacher, like every grade, first grade, second grade, third grade. You know, I thought, oh, that's how you serve. You'd be a teacher. And then when I got to junior high, it was like too many teachers. And I actually began to research psychology. And then I went to the University of Chicago to study attitude change theory because I thought I needed to know how I and others could change attitudes. I've always been on a search to what would be the best way to help myself and others. And then I, of course, got tired of rats and statistics and went out to UC Santa Cruz in the late 60s. And a Midwest girl, I thought I'd like died and gone to heaven. Coming out to California at that time was just like a whole new planet. And I was able to, with Esalen just starting in that time period of the late 60s, put together my whole own major in psychology of consciousness, working with children, getting involved in meditation, you know, started my spiritual quest. And as a psychologist teaching, I've discovered that the most effective thing of all the different forms of psychology and therapy was to have somebody sit on a pillow, being their head, and pretend they're talking to their heart on another pillow. And then switch roles and be their heart talking to their head. And as they went back and forth with me kind of facilitating, it would come to a oneness, usually in the heart, where they'd drop into their heart being and have the aha insight. And I thought, this was happening over and over. So then I met Doc Childare, the HeartMath founder, and this was before HeartMath, and he started talking about heart intelligence. And boy, did I sit up. That's the first time I ever heard that term, but I knew what he meant. And he said that his mission was to start an institute where he would research the heart, the brain, spirit, the connection, and what were the neurological, physiological pathways. Because if we could find that and help people access more quickly, more directly, that deeper heart connection with spirit, and where the body comes into harmony and we're in resonance with each other, then science would be telling people to go there. I wouldn't need belief systems or rituals or all the wonderful things that separate us. And so that's how HeartMath got started. And he invited me to be executive director, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. And Anna Marie and I are going to rotate here. Anna Marie's coming in next.
Yeah, wonderful, Deborah. It's clear that there's a lot more to the heart than what meets the eye, isn't that so? And in this sense, over the past years, there has been much talk about the plasticity of the brain, neuroplasticity. And now we see that this term is also being used when it comes to the heart. And with this basically pointing to the heart's ability to grow, well, you'll be able to tell us more about this and to remodel and whatever. So, but yeah, with this, you know, what does it really mean? What does it mean to say that the heart has plasticity, and what are the implications for the heart on the physical and on the emotional levels?
Well, I think what's really hopeful and exciting, because science tends to think it knows it all, but then until it knows the next thing, and we see changes in recommendations for diet and everything as each new scientific discovery happens. It was only in the 1990s, and that's really recent, that it was discovered that the heart has its own little brain inside, an intrinsic nervous system with sensory neurons that can learn, feel, see, and remember. Now, it's wild to me that that was only really discovered in the 1990s, and very few cardiologists or researchers even know that. It hasn't really dribbled down into society yet. That intrinsic nervous system of the heart, there's about 40,000 neurons, actually receive information from the blood pressure waves, from the hormonal system of the body, and process it and send information to the brain about how the body feels. So the brain, as a pattern matching organ, computer, will then respond, and if the body is in a stressful feeling or emotional state, that changes the hormones, it changes the biochemistry. That little intrinsic nervous system is communicating that, and the brain will also further change biochemistry and initiate a fight-flight response, for example. So that's only one way that the heart communicates to the brain. The second way is hormonally, and this also was discovered in the 1990s, which again is amazing. The heart was reclassified as a hormonal gland. It produces as much oxytocin, the bonding hormone, as the brain. That's blow away to scientists. It also produces atrial natriuretic peptide, which is a hormone that actually is like a neurotransmitter that has balancing hormones, receptors in the brain. So what that means is the heart is telling the brain what to do. And we always thought the brain controlled the heart. It's still common accepted knowledge, which isn't true. That's a two-way communication. And the heart is actually telling the brain and sending the brain more information through the vagal nerve and through these pathways than the brain is sending to the heart. So it's an upside-down paradigm shift.
Wow. That is very, very important. That is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, that really changes things around in a big way.
It really does. And then when we start talking about, like you're talking about, oneness and the importance of heart, it takes it totally out of the etheric, even though it's there too. It puts it right into, wow, this is hard science. This is truly the role of the physical heart and how it connects with the energetic heart and the spiritual heart. Is an amazing pathway that having that new cardiological, it's called neurocardiology, it's a new field. Having that validation gives all of us who are trying to help people in business or schools or society or, you know, shift to the heart, say, hey, here's why you're going to be sending different signals to the brain that will help you quickly release stress and overwhelm, transform perception, access intuition, you know, become more of who you really are.
So let me, I want to just go deeper, here, Deborah, into this. So we're, you know, how do we access this intelligence? So do we do so through our mind? Because it's also known that our reality is shaped through our thinking. So what's the difference between brain intelligence and heart intelligence? How do the two work together?
That's a wonderful question. So obviously you want them in harmonious cooperation and alignment and synchronization, so they are working together. The pathway to that, though, is through the heart. And what research has shown is that when the heart, which beats every beat all the time, and the rate of that heartbeat, called heart rate, which we like 60 beats per minute, 50 beats per minute, it's really an average. But when we actually analyze the change in heart rate beat to beat, called heart rate variability, we have a window into what's happening. It's like the spaces between the heartbeat contain information. And this has also been part of the research discovery at HeartMath and now replicated by many others. And if you look at the pattern of that heart rate variability, it creates what's called a heart rhythm pattern. And it's like, think of that like pattern like a Morse code that is sent to the brain. So if we're feeling stress, you know, and it doesn't matter where it originated, through seeing a gory movie or the mind processing some negative emotional fear or the heart sensory neurons picking it up from the blood pressure waves, wherever, the heart is actually responsible for signaling the brain how the body feels, and through that Morse code. And so when we're feeling love, care, kindness, appreciation, that heart rhythm pattern is a sine wave, a coherent waveform. And that's the activator of the higher brain functions. So when we're in that coherent waveform, the heart signals the brain, the thalamus and the amygdala, synchronization, resonance. That allows the brain to create facilitation in the higher cortical functions, the frontal lobes, the executive decision making. We call it heart intelligence because that intuitive flow, optimal state for performance has to be initiated in the heart. Even though the brain and the techniques HeartMath teach are very much telling you, okay, focus your attention in the heart. And that means the mind has to take action to go to the heart, to surrender to the heart, to connect with the heart, to activate this process. But the heart is the key driver, which is why we, instead of calling it heart-mind intelligence, we call it heart intelligence, which is the flow of information that allows the mind, emotions, brain, nervous system to synchronize in harmonious cooperation.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense because, you know, where we do, we start our meetings and humanities team with spiritual experiences where we're dropping down into the heart, and then we're just maintaining that heart connection. We call it then a spirit guided meeting, which
Absolutely.
is what you're discussing, kind of the science of what that is.
Right. We start all our meetings at HeartMath what we call an ad heart moment. You know, a quick coherence technique where we shift to the heart, we breathe through the heart, we radiate appreciation or care or compassion or love to each other. And that, we know, when we're hooked up, creates coherence. And now we're researching at HeartMath social coherence. What does this team coherence mean when we're all in a synchronized rhythm together for accessing higher potentials?
Yeah, what comes to mind for me when we speak about organs and our physical being, the evolutionary people often tell us, well, they always tell us that there's, when we look at nature, we realize that there's no difference really to what the way nature creates and the way our organs work and so on. So when one can really go out in nature and see how the rhythm of life, how that operates, is really how our bodies work. And in this instance, you talking about the resonance, the whole thing about resonance, I'm reminded here specifically about Barbara Marx Abbott. You know, she was one of the people who was inspirational to this whole idea of our Oneness in 12 Spheres of Life initiative. And Barbara Marx Hubbard, she often speaks about Buckminster Fuller. I think he's an architect, and what he did is he's known for his story that he was observing the nature, and what he saw is how the solid parts of nature was held together by more flexible parts. And here I'm seeing the heart, I'm seeing the organ, I'm seeing that, you know, when we look at the heart, we see how it's almost covered by a net. So how this is all held together. So what he's saying is that he's noticing that there's an outside pressure of nature, but it's evenly distributed across the whole structure. And that in that way, it makes it buoyant, and that the organ is able to adapt and to maintain what he calls its integrity and to remain interconnected. So here I'm just trying to, you know, to draw the whole nature with our physical bodies. And he speaks about the way nature does that. He says is that nature does that by doing the most with the least. And I can see that this quality of nature, of doing the most with the least, is really what love does, isn't it? Isn't that so?
Well,
love,
I'm sorry.
Love is an easiness. It's relaxed. It doesn't try. It's relaxed. Yeah. So it's not a struggle, you know, to keep things connected.
Let me comment on what you said, because there's scientific underpinnings to that description, and everything is rhythm. There's cosmic rhythms, planetary rhythms, body rhythms. The heart rhythm is really the master rhythm oscillator in the whole body. And as the heart goes incoherent through anger, frustration, it desynchronizes the system and the rhythms. And we're out of tune with ourselves and with nature. And when we get into that coherent heart rhythm, we are actually in resonance with nature's rhythms, you know, unconsciously, consciously. When we're in heart coherence, that sine wave, and our technology shows when you're there, but it also shows a power spectrum, which shows where the heart and the brain rhythms are synchronized at 0.1 hertz. And that is also nature's rhythm, the resonant frequency of nature. That's also the cardiovascular rhythm of the Earth's core. The magnetic core of the Earth operates in the same frequencies as human cardiovascular frequencies, those resonances, just like the ionosphere that surrounds the Earth, and the Schumann resonances are the same frequencies as human brain. So think of the Earth's brain and the ionosphere, the Earth's heart at the magnetic core, and we're all part of that. So as we get in harmonious resonance within ourselves, with the heart leading the process, just like it does in nature, we become more one with nature in that whole process, because coherence is the most efficient, to use Buckminster's view, terminology, it's the most efficient state. And there's quantum coherence all the way from the quantum particulate level to the macro level. And our experience of it is by getting ourselves into that state, and then the resonances amplify. And so that's actually the theory, the hypothesis between our Global Coherence Initiative too at HeartMath. That as more of us get into that resonant frequency, nature, Mother Earth, it creates a virtuous feedback loop that will make it easier to lift humanity.
Awesome.
In a way, that costs nothing, doesn't it, Deborah? It costs nothing to go into nature and just to be with the water and the mountains and the trees and so on.
Well, that's how we're designed. And by the way, Barbara Hubbard is a dear friend of HeartMath, and she and I go back many, many years to a project called Love at the Core and starting resonating hubs together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, boy, we're going to talk about Barbara's a dear friend, of course, of ours and Humanities Team too. And Global Oneness Day this year has a whole new twist, which is a year-round call to action that's called Awaken New Species in You. That's Barbara Marx Hubbard and Humanities Team. I'll talk about that at the end of this program. But Deborah, let's just go down into this. We've got a lot of viewers here. By the way, first to viewers, if you have questions or comments, bring them in here in the next 10 or 15 minutes, because there's so many things we want to get to, but we want to make sure we get to your questions and comments as well. So, so Deborah, just, you know, when we talk about tangible things we can do, you know, around the house, in our personal life, with our partner, you know, with our kids, But what are some of the things that you might recommend that just can keep us in this place of heart coherence?
That's where the rubber meets the road. And a lot of our focus at HeartMath, both our personal practices, because I used to meditate in the morning, get in a wonderful state, go to work, get all stressed out, and couldn't wait to get home to meditate again. And so that, a lot of that, people relate to that, or take a hot bath, or do aromatherapy, or do yoga, or do something. But in between the 8 hours of our day where we're draining energy, and then we have to recoup energy, some of us don't feel like we ever get ahead. And that's happening with a lot of people now, and in fact, in getting behind, they feel like they're always behind and overwhelmed. So our whole certification programs and technology is to help people really shift in the moment, reboot your inner computer, reset, and be able to do it quickly. So we talk about prep. So your morning is to prep and get in coherence for your day, because sitting in coherence for a few minutes has a carryover effect. It's not like just out and now you're back into the world of reality. It has a carryover effect in your nervous system, and as you practice, you start to repattern the nervous system. But the real key is right in that moment when you sent that email, you pressed send, and you went, oh, darn it, I wished I hadn't. I should have paused, because now I know at the other end they're going to be upset, or I said something I later regretted. And now you're draining energy, worrying and processing, and then you feel guilty, and you drain more energy. And, you know, how do we intercept those things and shift and get back to coherence? And we have all the research of the lab over the years, we try to hone one very simple technique that we know will get people in coherence. It's called quick coherence. And people do it, but if you really do it instead of multitasking while you're doing it, which a lot of people do, it will shift you into that coherent heart rhythm pattern. So when you get triggered by your kid, by your spouse, by your own thoughts, by the news, this is what you want to do. Should we try it together?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. I want everyone just to focus your attention in the area of your heart. If you can put your hand over your heart to help you get the energy out of up here down to your heart. You can close your eyes if you want to, but the idea is to use it in meetings or whenever with your eyes open eventually. So you just keep your attention there throughout this 30-second exercise. And pretend like your breath is flowing in through the area of the heart and out through the area of the heart. Breathing a little more slowly, a little more deeply, and normal. Find a nice, easy rhythm, but keep your attention in the heart. If it goes back to the head or elsewhere, you just gently bring it back. It's called heart-focused breathing. If you practice this during the day or when those moments happen, it will at least take you to a state of neutral, but this isn't the rest of the technique. So keep doing the heart-focused breathing. And you get yourself, you'll start to tune to this rhythm, because this is the rhythm you want to repattern your nervous system to go to when you're triggered. And now, in that rhythm, activate a calm or regenerative feeling. The feeling is what counts. Maybe a feeling of gratitude for someone or something in your life, like a pet. Something easy for you to feel that love or gratitude. Time in nature, flower, loved one. You want whatever is easy for you to feel appreciation or care for, because you want to activate the feeling of it as you do the heart-focused breathing. And now, if you've had your eyes closed, I want you to open your eyes and continue to do that.
Beautiful. Wow. Perfect. I'm so glad we were able to bring in an experiential exercise. Thank you for that, Deborah.
Now, people do that 5-10 times a day. And sometimes you give yourself Post-it note reminders or Outlook reminders or watch notifications, but really do it. You will start to repattern the neural traffic between the heart and the brain, so that when situations trigger you, you can get back quicker and have less drain. So you're actually having less depletion and more resilience building. And that has a host of proven health outcomes as well, mental health as well as physical health.
Yeah.
I can see that this is about creating new pathways. Isn't that so, Deborah? So, and that also, because everything is connected, as you say, the brain and the heart works together. It creates new, so as it creates new pathways through the heart, it creates new pathways through the mind as well.
Exactly. It creates right into the what's happening in the frontal lobes. And there's more and more research with mindfulness now becoming so popular, and researchers researching that, seeing what's happening with MRIs in the brain. The next level still to mindful awareness and expanding that consciousness is through the door of the heart. And it is the loving kindness. It is the activation of love. It is the conscious, intentional feeling of love and the qualities of love. Think of love as a pie, and compassion, care, kindness, appreciation, forgiveness, patience. These are all frequencies within that pie of love, who we are. And they all move the heart rhythm into 0.1 hertz and all move the brain into alignment. That's why you find them in every religion and every native culture. It's why we resonate so deeply in the heart with those are the core values of human beings and our connection to spirit.
And as we do it more, I can see it can also become a habit, just as we become habitual to, reacting to the world. We can also create new habits by connecting to the heart.
Exactly. And then part of the new habit is that connection with the next dimension, the non-local dimension. And that's what's happening. And there's a huge planetary shift going on right now, where there's a lot of energies that are facilitating people and facilitating the planet to shift to the higher fourth dimension, where we've been stuck in this polarized mental focus 3D dimension is a learning growth process. But now the opening and the pathway and the facilitation to that higher dimension is there, but it is through the door of the heart. It's through the activation of love. That's what protects the DNA, the whole human evolutionary system from the challenges we've had, because in third dimension, in that duality, that incoherence, it just keeps feeding back on itself and destroying itself eventually. But the doorway to the higher dimension of peace and love and what everybody's always wanted is really a doorway to higher intelligence. And that is aware of the wholeness or the oneness. There's truly an intelligence that has that consciousness of that connection.
So we're going to, in a moment, talk about this in a business context, which is exciting because there's a lot we're doing in Humanities team and HeartMath is doing relating this to business. But before we get to that, I wanted to just bring in a question here from a listener. This is from Paula. And Paula says, so depression is then an imbalance of rhythm between the heart and the head? And how is coherence altered insofar as daily practice by meds?
Well, depends on what meds you're taking. What we see over and over and over is that as people practice coherence and repattern their nervous system, and we always say, do this with the support of your doctor, they go off their meds. I mean, hypertension, high blood pressure is one of the main things where we see in a very short period of time, and where there have been studies, 3 or 4 independent studies, where they found that practicing HeartMath methods, especially using the technology which shows you when you're really there instead of thinking you're there, that's the benefit of it, why we created it. And it helps you refine that process. Within a few months, they go off their meds, or it's the equivalent of a low-salt diet or an exercise program. Again, it's just changing the heart, brain, body communication. But that's been true for all sorts of things, from depression, medications, to ADHD, to arrhythmia. I mean, you name it. Not for everybody. There's always unique aspects. But we have over 25,000 health professionals that have been involved with HeartMath now as a key component of bringing HeartMath into functional medicine, integrative medicine, cardiology, pediatrics, just because it's bringing the body back to its resonant, harmonious state, which helps the healing process.
That is amazing. We spoke a little bit before we came online about the question of how ready, you are saying that there is a shift in society, and I can see that too. As a whole, though, you know, we are being taught, you know, that we need to be rational, you know, we need to be clear thinking and all of that, so we can't be thinking through the heart. And we can see that that this is changing. And what Barbara has also teaches through her whole thing of the wheel of co-creation is the importance of highlighting what works and connecting things, you know, that work with one another.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm just mentioning that again, the importance of having stories of hope and success, because there are people out there who are looking, you know, who are really suffering, and they're looking for the answers. And the more the information is out there, stories of success and stories of hope, that is how this grows and becomes, you know, the new norm.
You're absolutely right. And HeartMath, I was telling you, we have thousands of success stories. We've been doing this for so many years in our archives. And, you know, if there's anybody out there who wants to be an intern to just mine all that and package it and put it together to bring it to the world, we have reservoirs of it, because they're really stories everywhere from policemen. We do a lot with law enforcement. Self-regulation training is so critical in law enforcement, correctional officers, the military. We just trained 63 master trainers in the Florida correctional system who are going to train 123,000 people, and then they hope to take it to the prisoners to just change the whole correctional system to help people get back in sync and get more of that capacity in terms of what would be most effective for remediation rather than punishment, which we know goes nowhere. And so that's just an example of where HeartMath has penetrated in society, but it's in every conduit, as we call it, or the 12 spheres, as you call it, or as Barbara calls it. And now the stories from each one can give tremendous hope. And the research behind the stories means I can do that too. They're not special. This is really related to me getting my physiology in a certain state, and there's tools to do that so I can have the same experience.
Yep.
Yes, and so I'll bring in this business context, which is exciting. But by the way, I think as we all know, because this is a conscious audience, you said earlier, Deborah, this shift is occurring. You know, in a sense, the baby has been born. This ascension is happening right now, and it's true. And there's evidence of that everywhere. In a business context, one of the evidences of that is that mindfulness is coming on so strong.
Right.
And that's a fairly recent thing, but mindfulness is just the beginning. Where we're going is true conscious business. And of course, Deborah, you've got a close relationship with us and also with conscious capitalism. And so the focus is now moving in business in the direction of both inner transformation and outer transformation. Of course, the outer part's been there for a little while, where we talk about people, planet, and profit, because planet and people is kind of bringing in the outer dimension. But conscious business in its fullness brings in the inner transformation, the inner journey, the things we're talking about here, where we're talking about heart resonance and bringing it into the culture of the company and the way that the business is operated and the way that business decisions are made, etc. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Deborah, because it's a real exciting new frontier?
Absolutely. Well, the shift is facilitating that, not just by people having little new insights and inspirations as they manage to connect with their heart through a loved one or their pet. Pets are doing a tremendous amount for this shift, I just have to tell you. You know, they open people's hearts, and with the new energies coming in, they get new ideas. But at the same time in business, we're seeing this incredible crunch of stress and overwhelm. And at the same time, people are going, I can't take it anymore. What do I do? And when people do that, they tend to go deeper in the heart and let go of something and say, look, are they more open? So stress is actually bootstrapping a lot of this, even though it's very painful and it creates a lot of repercussions at the same time. And the other side of it is mindfulness has become an umbrella word for everything that's meditation related, because isn't it interesting? People feel more secure with the brain and the mind. So even if they don't know what it is, mindfulness sounds like something that's going to give me higher performance or help me feel better because it's brain related. And as they start to practice any of it, breathing or anything, and becoming more self-aware, then they start to have some of the benefits of health and perception. So it's very exciting to me that that's starting, but like as several mindfulness trainers have said to me, because they're also HeartMath trainers, I have to start there and then I can add heart. And then I show them the science of the heart and then they're ready, because mindfulness gives you more awareness of what the sensory inputs, and not to get so identified and judge your thoughts. But the heart presence is what opens the door to true inspiration and higher intelligence. So adding HeartMath, they see it as just incredibly complementary. So in conscious business or conscious capitalism, business reaches a ceiling in leadership, and unfortunately this is still very top down because we're still in a very hierarchical culture, and you can't just have bottom up. You can't have just consensus. I mean, even the research shows it goes to the lowest common denominator and doesn't really lift. And top down is usually disconnected. So again, it's like the heart and brain. You have to get a flow of information between the line workers, so to speak, and the board of directors or the leadership. And if there's a blockage in the leadership level, you're really limited to what can happen. So any way you can speak to the board level or the leaders level, the influencer level, to show them what the likely outcomes are going to be if they implement these conscious business practices, and get beyond the ceiling, because the ceiling that these organizations are at, even if there may be one or two very aware people, is the lack of coherence, both internally and between people, personal coherence and social coherence. So if you can give them tools that quickly help them reboot, recenter, it kind of gets the ego out of the way without having to address it directly, and moves people into that state of resonance, which opens the sky, opens the ceiling. So that's what we're finding, but we have to go in through the door of what the interest is in most big companies right now. And what it is, what they most realize is that it's either healthcare costs, or it's productivity and performance, or it's presenteeism, or just being present instead of on your social media all day long. You know, the dismotivation of employees and workers, that is the doorway. And when we go in through how we talk about in building personal resilience or resilience advantage program, that's what we certify trainers and coaches and mentors in, is just the tool set, but it's actually going through the window of energy depletion and energy renewal. We have a grid. What's draining your energy? What's giving you energy? And how you can self-regulate to increase your ratio of energy assets and reduce the energy deficits. And people love that model. Make sense?
Yes. I'm sorry. It makes a lot of sense, and we could talk for hours on this. Anna Marie's going to go next. But there's so much. It is a new frontier, and in the next decade, of course, business is just going to change dramatically. This whole unconscious business thing is it's breathing its last breath. So, for people that are interested in conscious business, boy, there's a lot we're doing, and Entity's team and HeartMath is doing a lot. They're right there near Silicon Valley, just south of there. So you can plug into both our organizations, and we hope to be working closely together, actually.
Yeah.
Anna Marie, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. You know what, I want us to think a little bit about the aspect of compassion when it comes to healing. And what I've come to, often when I listen to people, people who are involved with the question of addiction and so on, is the whole thing of people losing their, it's about losing your connection with yourself, your connection with life, and and everything. And thinking about, especially when it comes to healers, there's the person, also Chambovsky. He's the author who wrote the book Teach Only Love, and how the amazing story where instead of him, he was not even seeing anybody specifically. He would be sitting outside of a room and simply be working with a file of a person, and just by connecting with a person, the healing effect that had. And it makes me think of that beautiful Hawaiian saying, ho'oponopono, where when you're with somebody and the person is suffering, where you feel the connection, not only feel the connection, you see the connection with the other. And in that moment, you can say, I am sorry, I love you, and thank you. So it's seeing that, it's important for us to see that the pain of the others, that we are all part of the pain of the other. Somehow or the other, we all contribute to healing as well as to suffering.
Absolutely. Compassion, we've made a bit of a study of it, and true compassion is a higher frequency, but so often moves into an incoherent feeling of what we call overcare, or unmanaged empathy, or sympathy, where you're just sort of crying in each other's soup. And it's real important to raise the vibration. So true compassion is one of the most powerful, highest frequencies of universal love, unconditional love, because it's, as you described, it's that resonance of realizing oneness in the light, so you can help lift somebody's spirit rather than be pulled off center into that. And it's a real fine-tuned distinction for people who have big open hearts and care, to understand when and know when there's crossing that line, and being able to pull the energy back into the heart and use a technique, whether it's a HeartMath technique or another one, to get back into that higher coherence, so that you're putting out that real quality of pure compassion and heart. And in our research, we've shown that the heart rhythm pattern of one person shows up in the brain waves of somebody standing even 3 feet away and not touching. It just shows how we're affecting each other. So when we're stressed, and I'm not even talking about some kind of aura or etheric energy, the electromagnetic energy emanating from the heart and the field of the heart is actually impacting the brain waves of people in our environment, just like when we're in heart coherence and we're in that loving, caring, compassionate, true heart state. That resonance is uplifting others, like you're saying. And when we say, I'm sorry, or I forgive, or with genuine heart feeling, that is transmitting that heart resonance and coherence, so the other feels it. And that's where synchronizing our coherent heart rhythms really opens the doors of higher love.
Absolutely. I've read the most incredible stories of people, healers, whatever you want to call them, who are able to make such a difference in their lives, or the condition of people who are in extreme states. I mean, the most unthinkable extreme states that you can think of. Over a period of time, it does not even take all that long, by just being with a person. You don't really have to do it. Well, it's not, they don't do anything. They have a way of connecting with the heart and connecting with a person that makes such a big difference.
Absolutely. Well, those of us who don't necessarily have developed those special gifts yet, the hope is that we can begin to find that within ourselves and improve in our day-to-day, moment-to-moment with each other. You just reminded me of a story of one of our HeartMath certified trainers, who's a psychologist, and yet he took this on. He's got Lebanese background, and he went to Lebanon. He's from the United States, but originally he's from Lebanon, and he's opened up these centers in the Syrian refugee camps. And he translated all the HeartMath materials for adults and children into Arabic. And he began teaching them and training a few of the women, you know, full burqas in the HeartMath techniques to share and help in the refugee camps because they're just squalid. And the challenge and the tension, I mean, it's amazing living in that environment after you've been displaced or some tortured and escaped. And then the children caught in the middle of it. And one of the biggest problems is that children had urinary incontinence everywhere. It's a mass epidemic. And when you're living in these small tents with each other and you're wetting your bed every night or twice a night, it's just hugely awful. He was able, through these simple HeartMath tools and having one of our M-Wave game heart rhythm feedback devices in each of his little centers there that the children and the adults could use to really find that feeling, know where to go. He got 800 children off of bedwetting in less than 3 months, and he had a waiting list of 1,500 more, so he's trying to train more teachers in this there. And then he started working with some of the prisoners from Abu Ghraib who'd been released, the Iraq, tortured, and not just there, but others that have been tortured. And he brought HeartMath to them and helped them reopen their heart and heal. And that just, we gave him at our annual event, our HeartMath Humanitarian Award last year, you know, a little crystal heart. But it just moved me so much. And now he's been invited to a doctor, a cardiologist in Colombia who works with HeartMath. And he's now involved in the healing between the FARC and the Colombian government, because that's years of real animosity and torture and all that. He's going to be coming over there to help them set up a whole program similar to what he's done there. So these are things any of us can do. That's my whole point, is that we don't have to have special powers or have brought up, you know, be a shaman or we can learn how to do this for ourselves and our families, our workplaces, and society.
This is a very important thing that you're saying, Deborah. This is so important because something that I also feel very strongly about is that, in a way, when it comes to healing, and I mean, certainly there are people who are just so beautifully professional and they stand out and so on, but I'm thinking about the role of community, and this is what we really want to go back to. This is what we're yearning for. And right. I think in a big way, and unnecessarily so and unhealthily so, when it comes to healing, it's been given to people out there. But I think all of us together, there are simple things. There are things like the things that you're teaching HeartMath and the tools that you've created. They should be available to all of us, so that in our communities we can help one another sooner than later. You know, why do we have to spend lots of money to go and see a psychologist? We go there and we see them for how long, and we never, that's my personal experience, we never get anywhere. Right. I think it should be a lot easier than what we've been doing it for the past number of years.
So totally agree with you. I mean, that's our mission, our purpose is to help activate the heart of humanity and reach people. That's why we said, okay, how are we going to reach more people and make this available? The nonprofit HeartMath Institute is doing this in schools and community service organizations, even 911 call centers, and they have scholarship programs to be able to help fund that and grant funding. And then HeartMath, the for-profit, which develops the technology and the training programs, you know, we're just trying to certify people in every aspect of life to reach. But this is at the point where we all need to take best practices, co-create, and use our collective heart intelligence and how we bring this to communities.
So yeah, and let that be the last word here. This hour's gone fast. There's a bunch of questions here from viewers. So, and there's a slide we're going to put up here in just a second. People are wanting to know, how can they dive deeper into HeartMath? What are the tools, the theories, the practices, etc. And even some other questions. Prefrontal cortex is our consciousness, and you know, so how does this questions that are just trying to dive deeper into the practice of what you're talking about here, Deborah. So we're going to put up a slide in a moment. But let me first do a shout out, because as we're talking about this ascension and this shift, this transformation, this awakening, all of us here that are participating in this program, we're part of that.
Right.
And so the way this is deepening, of course, is by us employing these tools, not only in our own lives with our kids and our partner, etc., but in all of the spheres of life. So taking these tools into schools, taking them into churches, taking them into into business. We were talking about it in a business context. You don't partition these things at all. And I think too often we all think of ourselves as, oh, I'm the student, and so is the teacher. But part of this conversation here has been that a true teacher is also a student. That's what oneness is there's that interplay. So just a shout out to all of us to really to raise our game, raise the bar, and to not only be employing these tools that we're talking about here in our own family, in our own life, but bringing them into business and schools and hospitals and hotels, etc. Let's do that together. And this slide here we're putting up, there's HeartMath is doing incredible things. You'll see in 1 second a way that you can connect with HeartMath. There is an institute and a for-profit. Here's the links you can see that we just put up. Invite you to go to those links to learn more about HeartMath and to follow Deborah and the incredible work that she and the team in HeartMath are doing. So I'm going to just go now to some announcements here. Actually, let me just thank you all briefly, though. My partner here and colleague, Anna Marie Peters, our special guest, Deborah Rozman. What an incredible hour, huh? And just so much wisdom and heart-based wisdom, which is where it's at. That's kind of the direction the planet's pointed in here, isn't it? So thank you to you all. I'm going to come back and thank you to some more, but let me share a few things first. Humanities Team is a member of this Conscious Business Alliance. It's composed of 4 NGOs, Humanities Team, the Club of Budapest based in Europe, the Goy Peace Foundation based in Japan, and the Fowler Center for Business out of Case Western Reserve University. And what we're saying together is that the purpose of business is to increase economic prosperity while contributing to a healthy environment and improving human well-being. So our alliance is sharing that business has to be about more than just financial gain, financial profit. If you like that idea, I invite you to go to consciousbusinessdeclaration.org, where I think we're going to put a link in the window, and invite you to read it and sign it. And invite your friends, family, and coworkers to sign it as well. It is important that business become conscious. Some upcoming programs that you don't want to miss. Next week on Wednesday, the 6th, we'll be interviewing Jean Houston. Jean is one of the most dynamic speakers in all of the world. You won't want to miss this program. The program starts at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. Then the following week on Thursday, getting back to our Thursday programs, Thursday, September 14th at 9 o'clock Pacific, we're going to be interviewing the producer of What Dreams May Come, the Celestine Prophecy, Homeless at Harvard, that's Barnett Bain, Anna Marie Peters, and 2 other partners will be doing that interview. That is the Oneness in 12 Spheres program. And then the week after that, Patricia Cota-Robles is on. If you go to livinginone.com, you can see all of the upcoming speakers. This program and all of our programs are free. And if you miss the program the weekend following, you can listen in for free as well. I want to also talk about Global Oneness Day, which is coming up. It's on Tuesday, October 24th, so it's not too far from now. It's going to be broadcast on the Amplifield like last year, so there's lots of interaction. There also will be webcast and replay, so other ways to listen to it as well. If you go to globalonenesssummit.org, you can see all of the incredible speakers. Deborah Rozman is a speaker. She's on the Oneness in 12 Spheres of Life program. So again, that's Global Oneness or Global Oneness Summit.org is where you go to sign up. It's a free program. This year, for the first year, the whole program, 12 plus hours, is in video. So you won't want to miss it. As well, I mentioned during the program that one of the things that we're introducing this year is a way to take Global Oneness Day year-round, so we can live in oneness together as a community year-round. Barbara Marks Hubbard and Humanities Team are creating this program. It starts in the fall. It's called Awaken the New Species in You. awaken the new species in you. To learn more about it and to get some complimentary ebooks and videos and things, you can go to awakeningnewspecies.com to learn more about that program that'll launch right after Global Oneness Day. This program is focused on living in oneness, so we want to invite you to something called Community Circle. It's only $10 a month, and it's a virtual community for people that live all over the world and that are living in oneness. It allows you to collaborate and connect with leaders like yourself all over the world. You gain access to over 350 programs, some in video and some in audio format, 7x24, that you and your family and friends can listen to. There's a bi-monthly Heart Circle video meeting like this where people are coming in via Zoom to share about their personal journey. There's a private Facebook page. There's a book club. So lots of things for Community Circle. And it's only $10 a month. If you go to humanitiesteam.org and then come down, you'll see Community Circle, where you can learn more about it there as well. We're going to put a link in the window. So I want to come back then again and just thank our special guest, Deborah Rozman, my partner, Anna Marie Peters. Thank you, an amazing hour. Also want to thank our colleagues here in the Humanities team that made this program possible: Garth Catterall, Caroline Chang, Annette Kennedy, Dee Meyer, and Christine. So thank you to all of you, and then saving the best for last, each of you, thank you for participating in this program. It's your participation that makes all of this possible. So in closing, I want to just invite all of us to really live as one. And of course, each of us is going to do this in our own way. When we live this way, we open ourselves, we receive God's love, and then we express that authentically, each in our own way. We'll see you Wednesday next week, September 6th at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, when we're back on the air with Gene Houston. Be an incredible program. Don't miss it. So thanks again, Deborah, Anna Marie, Garth.
Thank
Thank
everybody.
you.
you. It was lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Christine,
Bye-bye.
Glenn, thank you. Awesome hour. Okay,
Bye-bye.
see you all soon. Deborah, we'll be back to you soon here to follow up on things.
Sounds good.
Anna Marie.
Bye-bye.
Soul Sister.